Hey there, everybody. So today I'm going to be showing you my second game from the Carta Magica Regionals that I top 32'd over last weekend. Here we are playing against a Dofi. One of my big takeaways from the tournament this month or this weekend is that I got to hit a lot of like my good matchups, and it really, when I looked back, I could tell like there was like I think 4 Usopps in the top 32 in that tournament, so it just ended up being a good choice for the day. I think a lot of Dofis showed up. There was a lot of Shanks and Ploofies. It was probably had to have been at least a quarter of the tournament was those. But there was a lot of just other stuff that, and the other stuff is kind of like where Usopp shines, right? So anyway, my opponent here is mulliganing. We're kind of figuring out what we're doing on the card stuff. Skip ahead a little bit or speed up. Alright. We'll see who ended up going first. This game I don't ever remember as well as some of my other ones. And that's just because I played 3 Dofis today. And they kind of blurred together. 2 of them did especially, but I think it was the third one I recorded, but I'm probably not even going to show because it was just such a one-sided game that's not all that interesting to watch. My opponent ended up low rolling and I high rolled, so we get to go first here, which is nice. And we're Leoing. I've noticed that I take a lot of time on my Leo searches, and I think that like extra time of thinking really far ahead can help. So in the Dofi matchup, it's another one where like the King Kong guns that I brought aren't as important as just kind of doing your normal Usopp game plan. I tossed a Frankie here. I think like in retrospect after the day of playing, that was just incorrect. They have very few answers to Frankie that are like early game answers. They kind of have to gravity blade it eventually to really get good value. And the nice thing about playing Usopp is even if they gravity blade you, you still gain some resources, so. Here we're just waiting. See what our opponent wants to do with those top 5, and he ends up bottoming them and goes for a second one to see what he can get that's better. I definitely know what it's like to be sort of in my opponent's position here too. Actually both of my first 2 opponents where you're kind of having to face a bad matchup in the first couple games. It's kind of daunting, at least to me, where, you know, you're kind of like, oh, of course, somebody was playing Usopp or whatever, you know. Where I can't really make that complaint if I had run into Shanks. I'd just be like, yeah, of course, that's actually what the tournaments are. We swing 5, my opponent takes early. There is an argument to not swing at all, but I do kind of like want to make sure that eventually we have a game state where I can win the game. And that is easier with King Kong gun, but I don't want to fully rely on that for the whole game if I don't have to. So I'm kind of like, my like general rule of thumb is like, even these like aggro decks, I mean, unless you're in like a full control, you know, like a Nell kind of situation, like getting them to 3 at least, so you can have some wiggle room in the late game and you don't just die to a leader swing or something. My opponent's doing a lot over here. He's drawing cards, he's playing little blockers. continue to swing at life. My opponent continues to take it, which is definitely correct. I don't know if I'd do this play if I don't have the Zoro. Oh no, I don't have the Zoro. I thought I had a Zoro. Oh, okay. I know what I'm doing. So I have a Zoro, but I think I have the full combo for the next turn, so I can do that then. And now I'm just going to give him something to swing at on board. And it does draw me a card and kind of filters out some stuff. If I remember right, I have a lot of counter in my hand. And this Cavendish swing actually drew me into a Rebecca, I believe. We're pretty happy to take our first hit here, especially because it went at life. I was assuming it was going to go for Cavendish. But my opponent took pity on me, I guess. And then we get out of that second one. Yeah, and he ends up playing the Jozu. I did not expect a Jozu, clearly. So, worth noting that the Jozu was really strong here. I also didn't get to draw. I think I went up to 6 cards with the Cavendish. And he got to take a 1k back to hand. So I'm pretty reliant on this Rebecca turn here to like get me back in this game. And once again, notably, the Jozu's so annoying because I only can bounce a 5. And I would have pretty happily gave him that back to hand, but instead now I'm making decisions on what do I KO? Do I KO the blocker so I can swing into the body? And then if I do that, does he just give me 2Ks? And is that good enough? So yeah, thinking through those processes, trying to decide like, can I take the risk of not ensuring that's KO'd? And I choose to take the less risky option of just doing that. I don't return the blocker, but instead I take a Leo back to hand to get some counter. My thought on the blocker is there's so many points in the game he's gonna just be able to play it out anyway, that really like putting it in his hand isn't doing that much for me. Where like having the Leo next turn, I could Leo and set up another Rebecca turn. And then my opponent decides to take the next one. I was hoping he'd counter out of that one. So I think my opponent was really strong. He kind of like knew that he just needed to take all this life to get these resources now, so he could protect his board over time. It's taking a little bit of time to count his Dawn, figure out his turn. The other thing I've noticed in a lot of my games is that I kind of saw the pieces I needed pretty in almost every game. There's a few where I didn't, and really like one of those was one that I won was especially bad, but I just kind of squeaked out a win. Okay, so he's getting rid of my body. I think I have 6 cards again, so I don't get to even draw, which was a bummer. But all said and done, I came out not too bad. I discarded to the Jozu, so I didn't take that damage. And now I believe I set up another Rebecca turn. We'll find out. I believe my opponent was asking me what Gats does here. See it over there in the trash. I'm taking my sweet time here. I think that, yeah, I think I'm trying to figure out exactly how much Dawn I have to play with. And I wanted to start out by reducing his hand size a little bit. You can kind of like see me doing this and just hoping like, oh my gosh, please don't take that hit. You know, like, I really need you to like let me kill this board. And yeah, now we're using the Leo that we put back. I'm getting some value out of that. And I'm probably pretty desperately looking for a Kyros or a Rebecca or something like that to just keep me in the tempo going on my side. I really do like watching this back. In the game I did feel kind of on the back foot for a good chunk of it. And I think it actually shows while playing as well. Like, my opponent feels like I'm sure my opponent felt the opposite, where he's just like, oh my gosh, another Rebecca into Kairos, blah blah blah. But I was definitely worried he was going to get to a point where he was going to start rebuilding board and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, here we do return just so we can swing easily over. And I'm kind of proud of myself here. Damn, he saves it. Because I do get to swing at life now. And I said I'm proud because I think like there's versions of me in the past that would have swung all three of these things into life and kind of given him a bunch of counter. But I kind of just teased the first one to see if he'd give me a blocker. So he keeps his stuff alive. He's going to pass it back, I believe. Or I'm going to pass it to him. He's just deciding if he's going to counter out of the swing, I believe. And then he does, yeah. The 1k from my leader swing. So yeah, it's funny because I was just saying like, oh, you know, it feels like I don't have a lot. But then that tempo swing from the second Rebecca turn, now my board is full of stuff. And he just kind of has a Jozu. Swings a 7 and I just take... I can't remember if I was even able to get out of that. I think I was, but... I think I have a lot of counter here actually, if I remember. And I was like, hey, anyway he splits this, I can get out of. He's just thinking of the most ideal split, I believe. Because notably, I don't think I played a single blocker this game. Or, no, I did. I think the second turn I played one and just blocked with it. Yeah, so he's kind of thinking through his lines here. And looks like he doesn't think he can get that like lethal in quite yet. So he's gonna play some blockers. Move some Dawn around. Yeah, double blocker actually. Yeah, it's kind of funny like watching these games back. Especially these paper games. And another blocker, wow. Yeah, he's going heavy. Yeah, and I keep my life at 1 here. And another blocker. Oh my goodness. I have no idea how I got out of this pickle. That was a lot. But I do have a lot of swings as well, so. And he has a very small hand size. I think he has 2 cards here. Going 6 into 6 on the boa, I believe. Do you remember this turn a little bit now? So I believe I have a black Luffy in hand. So my goal here is to pretty much clear his board again. I don't think I had like any blockers, or if I did, it was very few, where like one law, loses me the game or something. So I was sort of like priced into this sort of awkward play where he has one card. And I need to figure out a way to like clear this board more or less. We're gonna swing 9. I was at the Jozu and he blocks instantly, of course. This would have been a great spot to have a Zoro, obviously, but we don't. And I'm really testing him here. Swinging 7 over. I think this was just a misplay, honestly. I could have just swung leader for 7. My opponent thinks, I think if he has the counter, he like has to use it. But I just made the call that he didn't have the counter earlier when he let the Zoro take out a boa. I remember right now my opponent, he was kind of talking through different things I could have. And if he could survive or win if I had those things. So he ended up making a decision, I believe, around kind of the assumption I had a Kairos in hand, but instead, even here I'm thinking about it, I know I can't pressure his life enough here that he's gonna block. So I do need to remove both of these bodies, and the way I'm going to do that is with the black Luffy. And if he didn't have the counter for that, he doesn't have the counter for this, right? So we go ahead and we send 7 cards back, and we remove the last blocker. And with that, we kind of put our opponent in an unwinnable position from here. Yeah, we swing our 5, our last 5. But yeah, we put him in a winnable position here. Like I said, I did some weird stuff. For some reason, I didn't go over the Rebecca that had already swung. But we don't worry about that, We just see how the game ends here. Opponent draws. Opponent plays a blocker. One of Dofi's obvious downsides is if your opponent's at 1, you don't have any rush bodies to deal with that. So he kind of just has to pass back here. Interestingly, he does not concede, which I think is fine. I think like in this position, it's pretty clear that it's game over. Do that 5. I'm just trying to set up a way to untap this Luffy, I believe was my plan. Just to like add another swing to the board that was like more or less free. We're gonna get rid of the blocker. Pretty much all of this is unnecessary. Just me trying to play around like weird triggers or something and just kind of, yeah, my opponent's getting a little frustrated too because I won't just kill him, but I wanted to play it as well as I could, and from there he does concede. So good game to my opponent. Like I said, I think I have one more Dofi match, and I'll make sure to kind of share that one as well later. It's, I think, a little later in the tournament, so I should have a couple different things up until then. Alright, well, thanks for watching. I'll see you all soon. Bye.